Good afternoon. I'm Marcia White, the Program Manager here at the Community Health Endowment of Lincoln. On behalf of our President and CEO, Lori Seibel, who very much regrets that she couldn't be with us today, and our Board of Trustees, we welcome you to this fourth and final event in our fifth series of community conversations. And I do thank you for being here on a day when it's so tempting to be outside. We do have several of our trustees with us today. Of course, Kathy Campbell, Kim Russell, Carol Burt is here, and Dan Marvin. Did I miss anybody? And we thank you very much for your service. Our first three events in this year's series, Caring for an Aging Loved One, Beyond Baby Blues, Postpartum Depression, and Stop the Bleed, are all available for viewing online. Just check the LNKTV Health YouTube channel, or search for the program by name and you'll find those. As we're wrapping up this year's series, we're also looking ahead to next year. That's why you have two yellow Post-it notes on your chair. If you have an idea for a topic you'd like to see discussed in a forum like this, we'd invite you to write that on a Post-it note and stick it on the board on your way out of the office after the conversation this afternoon. We're very much interested in your ideas. So on with today's program. Nearly 10,000 children in Lincoln live in poverty. A 2016 report on intergenerational poverty from the Nebraska Legislature said, the simple fact is, if you want to make tomorrow better for children, you have to make today better for parents and children. Two-generation or two-gen strategies are emerging as a promising way to address the needs of both parents and children and break the cycle of intergenerational poverty. We're fortunate to have with us today one of the state senators who co-chaired the legislative task force that issued that report, Kathy Campbell. Kathy has worked as a tireless advocate for lifting people out of poverty, both on the Lancaster County Board and in the Nebraska Legislature, and now she serves us as a member of the CHE Board of Trustees. Kathy will share some insights with us and then introduce our other presenters. Kathy?
And my welcome. It is amazing to us. Janae and I were talking before. We have really had almost sellout crowds at every event that she has spoken. So we know that this is a topic of interest. Our community works, I believe, diligently and cooperatively to serve the poor and the near poor in our community. And especially in what we came to know in the task force as situational poverty. Someone loses a job, someone has a medical need, the refrigerator stops operating, all of those things that can come into people's lives that certainly make their situation in a poverty that needs help, and our agencies do a great job. But more difficult is intergenerational poverty, which persists from one generation to the next and beyond. Former Senator Heath Mello proposed an intergenerational poverty task force to look at this very issue in Nebraska, and his bill eventually was folded into a bill of mine for passage by the legislature. After 14 months of meetings, interviews, and research, a final report with recommendations was issued in December of 2016. And I want to acknowledge the author of that report, Elise Hubbard. And Elise, you have to stand up. She is in the very back, and she was the author. And the report looks like this, and is available in all of the data and maps and so forth. And Marcia will provide a link for you if you want to look at the whole report. I believe that you have the executive summary to look at. And thank you, and on the bottom of the front page. In our work, we learned that either early childhood development programs or adult programs for people in poverty alone, one program alone and one program alone, do not bring the long-term potential of breaking the intergenerational poverty task force. And Marcia gave the quote that actually came from a send of the Aspen Institute, and Janae's going to talk about that today, is that to make tomorrow better for our children, we need to make it better for the parents and the children. This became the undergirding of the report and our emphasis and belief in the two-generation approach. Our report highlighted promising two-generation programs across the country, and that Janae will talk a little bit about that also in hers. But one of the interesting things for us as senators was the number of states across this country who are, as a state, becoming involved in two-generation programs and supporting them across their states. So it was a pleasure when, in the report, we highlighted Tulsa, Oklahoma, to be able to bring our native Nebraskan, today grew up in Omaha, as an advocate and innovator for the two-gen approach. And I want to tell you a little bit about Janae. It was really fun getting to know her yesterday, and we are particularly pleased to welcome also her parents here today from Omaha. Janae Bradford is an Assistant Director of Family Advancement at CAP Tulsa. She started work at the agency in 2006, where she has been primarily responsible for project design and management, as well as external partnerships relating to programs which strive to improve the economic stability of parents with young children through a two-generation approach. During her career, Janae has been involved with a number of innovating projects, from improving access to public benefits to tax time assistant building and sector-based workforce development. Janae received her Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and MBA from Oklahoma State University. She is married with one daughter whom Janae described to me yesterday as age 6 going on 36. We all can identify if we're a parent. So with that, please welcome Janae Bradford.
So thank you all for that really warm welcome. That was awesome. Super excited to be here in Nebraska for the first time, mixing family and work. So that's been really neat. Here's kind of what I'm going to go through with you today. So I'm going to do a little exercise. Don't worry, it'll be painless, I promise, just to get a feel for who's in the room. And then I'm going to go over a brief definition of what a two-gen approach is, just so we can all kind of level set and be on the same page. Then I'll dive into who we are at CAP Tulsa, why we chose a two-gen approach, and what that really looks like with some of the programs that these guys are mentioning. And then I have a couple lists of promising practices and resources that the community of Lincoln can tap into as you all continue your journey to implementing a two-generation approach. To start off, I want to know, how two-gen are you? By a show of hands, I want to know, how two-gen are you, or how two-gen is your agency? Raise your hand if you're a number 1. I don't even know what this girl is talking about. I'm not sure I'm in the right room. My dad raised his hand, you guys. That's awesome. That's great. I knew he would. How about on the flip side? Who in here is a number 3? You know what two-gen is. You're curious to know why they brought an Okie in when you could be up here doing this presentation. No 3s? Man, I wanted to go get coffee. I was going to let somebody else do this. So I'm guessing everybody else is kind of a 2, somewhere in the middle? Good. Okay. Then we will talk about what a two-gen approach is, so we can bring my dad up to speed. In a nutshell, it is what it sounds like. It's a program that meets the needs for and provides services for both the child and the parent simultaneously, right? And what Kathy was talking about, this executive report, or this task force report, if you guys haven't read it, this is phenomenal. All of the components of a two-gen approach that are recommended on the national level were included in this report. This report is excellent, and you have the framework already written to implement this work here in Lincoln and across the state of Nebraska. So I encourage you to take a look at that. You have the executive summary, but it's a pretty easy read. Check it out. This slide is from Ascend with the Aspen Institute, And it's a really great slide because it gives you a visual of all of the cogs or components that are required to really make a two-generation approach successful. So I know some of you in the back may not be able to see this, but we've got early childhood education, right? The high quality for the kiddos. We've got post-secondary and employment pathways, obviously for the adults. And then we have all these wraparound things like asset building, housing, transportation, health and well-being, both physical and mental health. Social capital, that's those social connectiveness, those social networks that we all have, right? And I'll get into later how we've implemented that. One of our research partners had a quote back when we were rolling out our two-gen approach that really struck me and made me understand why working with both the kids and the parents at the same time is so important. And her name is Lindsay Chase Lansdale. She's with Northwestern University. And she said something to the effect of, we can't expect the child to be the change agent alone, right? So especially for those of us in the early childhood world, we're investing all this time and energy into the kids, hoping for a better outcome, right? But at the end of the day, that kid goes home, right? So if their home isn't stable, if mom or dad don't have access to growth opportunities, if they don't have opportunities to get more income into the household, all of that investment in the child is for naught, right? So that's how we've all started coming around to this idea of serving both generations at the same time. Here's another really great graphic from Ascend. This shows the continuum of a two-gen approach, right? So every program that you all represent and that's going on here in Lincoln falls on this continuum somewhere, right? So you're either 100% parent-focused, you're 100% child-focused, or you're somewhere in the middle. And I was on a webinar a couple weeks ago, and a group out of Georgia did a really cool activity with this slide. They took this graphic, posted it on the wall, and they all took sticky notes, and each sticky note they wrote down a program that exists. And they put it on this graphic where it would currently fall. Is it more of a parent-focused program? Is it more of a child-focused program? So they covered this thing with sticky notes, and then they sat down and talked about it and said, what would it take to move this program closer to the middle? Is that a tweak in the program, or is that a collaboration with another existing entity, right? And so it started this really cool collaborative conversation. And sometimes it's as easy as a perspective shift. So let's say you're a provider of ESL classes, English as a second language, okay? You're serving adults, right? You have an adult that walks in the door and she wants to learn English, okay? Well, what if instead you saw her as a mom who wants to learn English so that she can interact with her child's teacher? See, it's just a simple shift. Does that make sense? 2-gen? Everybody's a 3 now? All right, so what's CAP? We are CAP Tulsa, obviously in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We are one of the largest anti-poverty agencies in our state. We serve approximately 2,400 children aged 0 to 5 and their families every year in a 2-gen approach, obviously. So we truly believe that every child and every family deserves equal opportunity for success. And we back that up by providing high-quality early childhood education along with programs for the parents that include, designed to increase parenting skills, employability, and earning potential. There is a handout that you'll have on your chairs. This is our strategic plan one-pager. We just got done with our 10-year strategic plan. But in that work, we bucketed the work into 4 categories, okay? And the 4 categories are child success, family success, community success, and org success. Child success, pretty self-explanatory. We're in it for the kids, right? We're gonna keep doing what we're doing for the kids. We did call out in there that we wanna work with families until the child's in 3rd grade and work with our partners to make sure they have that high quality education and care all the way through 3rd grade. Anybody know why I said 3rd grade? It's the end of early childhood education, okay? Family success, again, self-explanatory. We're gonna keep supporting the adults in the family with workforce development, English as a second language, parenting classes, parent engagement stuff, all of those things we already do. Community success is new to us. This is us saying in our out loud voice, we can't do it all. This is CAP Tulsa saying we need to show up as a partner in the community and leverage what's already going on. I will tell you, Lincoln is an awesome collaborative space. You guys are rocking that. That's so cool. We don't have that in Tulsa yet. In pockets we do, but overall, we're making the commitment to be a leader in that space and really show up as a good partner and have others come along with us. Organizational success, you guys know this. You gotta invest in your people because they're the ones running the programs, right? You won't be successful if your employees aren't bought into the mission and passionate about the families we're serving. And we've done an excellent job of that, building a really cool culture in CAP Tulsa. So that slide and that one pager makes it sound like we've got it all figured out, huh? Yeah. No, it's taken us a really long time to get here, and a lot of thinking and a lot of hard work, and we're not quite there yet, right? There's still work to do. But I want to talk to you a little bit about how we got to where we are now. So in 2011, we were in another strategic planning process, which it makes it sound like that's all we do, but it just happens that way. 2011, we were doing our previous strategic plan, and we committed at that time to triple our impact. So we don't do things small at CAP, if you know, 10 years, triple our impact, you know. So we, at that time though, our agency looked very different. We had two sides of the house, if you will. We had one side focused on early childhood education, and we had the other side, which was a more traditional community action agency programs, right? So free tax preparation, first-time homebuyer education, down payment assistance, affordable housing, those kind of programs. Well, we were looking at our data and talking about how do we triple our impact? Is it in the community? Is it with the kids? What do we do? And at the same time, there was a lot of research coming out saying how important high-quality early childhood education is. It's a great foundation for the kids. It's an excellent start for them to be successful for the rest of their life, okay? Well, that really spurred us to double down, right? Now you get the poker chips. Double down on early childhood education, okay? There was also research coming out from the likes of Greg Duncan saying as little as an additional $1,000 a year into the household has a positive impact on the child outcomes, okay? So if we're doubling down on the kids and we want those child outcomes to be as good as possible, well, cool, we can help the families too, and that helps the child outcome. So it all kind of came together, right? And while our non-early childhood programs were successful in themselves, you know, our tax program, we were doing upwards of 20,000 tax returns a year. But only about 300 of those each year were families who had children enrolled in our schools. So our community-facing programs weren't meeting the needs of our families in our schools, right? So in 2011, we actually made the strategic decision to spin those lines of business off to others in the community. Oh, and my department was then renamed to Family Advancement. So that's what we do. We advance the families. And now I'm going to talk about how we do that and what programs we do. But 2Gen at CAP now looks like high quality early childhood education delivered using Head Start, Early Head Start, and the Oklahoma Early Childhood Program as a platform, along with home visiting programs. Wraparound services for those families, mental health, goal setting, coaching, emergency and crisis intervention, family engagement activities, and then also workforce and education programs for the families, okay? And I want to show you guys a video. This is Kalula. She is one of our Career Advance participants, and she just tells the story of being in the program a lot better than I ever could.
Before Career Advance, I viewed my life as hopeless. I had a child at 16, and there I had so many people against me saying that you are not going to amount to anything, you're just going to become another statistic. It kind of just grew on me like, okay, well, this is it. The best I'm going to get is that I'm going to live on housing for the rest of my life. At least my bills are half paid, and raise my kids that way with the government's help all my life. For a moment there, I was okay with it, but in my heart, I knew there was something that was not right about it.
Lula, when she first started, was very excited and anxious and afraid.
I didn't really think that I could go to college because I started out with a very low reading level.
She actually got in. She was right on the edge of actually passing the test to qualify for the program, but they still gave her the chance.
They offer us classes on math and building our skills before we entered college. And I think by that, knowing they did that, took the time and the money and effort to do that, that right there, I knew I had to continue until finish.
Everyone deserves an opportunity for advancement. And with this program, it is a grand opportunity.
She's finishing her associate's degree. She's taking one last class and she's done.
I definitely feel a part of I feel like I'm assisting the community by becoming self-sufficient and knowing that where you came from and knowing where you can end up. I feel like I've done a justice to my society.
Career Advance has a huge impact on the community, and the way it does, it takes a set of individuals who have strong goals for themselves and for their children, and it gives them the opportunity to achieve that goal and to change the future of these kids and the next generation going ahead.
My son's future is going to be so much brighter. He saw how hard I worked in school. It sparked an interest in his life that if mommy can do it, I can do it. I am so thrilled and so excited to see what the future has for us. I really do.
That video is about 3 years old. Like I said, Kalula did her Health Information Technology Associate. She's in the field working. Her little guy is, I believe, in 3rd grade now, so he's rocking and rolling in elementary school. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Marcia. Marcia is a miracle worker. All right, so I've mentioned the word quality several times, and there's a reason behind that. So when you think of a 2-generation approach, both the interventions for the kid and the interventions for the adult have to be high quality, right? They have to be they have to have their own positive outcomes in order for that family to benefit from a positive outcome, okay? So what does quality look like at CAP? In our early childhood division, quality looks like degreed and certified teachers, state-of-the-art facilities. You saw one of our schools in that video. I'll show you another couple pictures here in a minute. Evidence-based curriculum. We have an internal team that is constantly reviewing and assessing our curriculum and making sure it's the best and the appropriate fit for the kiddos we're serving in those classrooms. We have health, nutrition, and special services teams that wrap around our families. Dual language learner approach in our classrooms. So through that, our classrooms they're taught in English, right? But we know not all of our kids speak English at home. So we're honoring that home language at the same time that we're helping them learn at the same pace as their peers. We have family support specialists and also behavioral support specialists as well. And these are some pictures of our schools. That top picture is our Disney Early Childhood School, and that's actually one of our families. And they all kind of look like the little schoolhouse. You know, we have the pointy roofs, the little schoolhouse. And then our playgrounds are super fun. This is the inside of a typical classroom at CAP. Very bright, clean, cheery. I don't know if you all in the back can see, but the windows are down at kid level. All the chairs are teeny tiny. It's really cool. And then same for the adult programs, right? We want to keep that high quality factor in those programs as well. And so 2 of our nationally recognized adult programs are Career Advance, our workforce development program, which is sector-based, in the healthcare sector. We have just recently piloted an additional track that is in the Childhood Development Associate world, where we are working to grow our own teacher assistants for our classrooms. So that one's pretty cool. We've just started that with 10 families. And then our English as a Second Language program, which is actually contextualized to life as a parent of a young child. So we've aligned the adult curriculum with what some of the stuff the kids are learning in the child classroom. We have brought in forms and other things that the parents are going to interact with just by being a parent of a young child, right? We're prepping families to be able to do parent-teacher conferences in English without an interpreter. Things like that. We've really contextualized that to life as a CAP parent. So ESL programs and workforce programs exist all across the country. What makes ours so special? Well, we have deliberately designed them specifically for low-income parents of young children. And here's how we've done that. We have peer cohorts. And by that, we mean our classes, we buy a whole class and fill it up with 100% of our participants. So our certified nursing assistant track, that class is full of people we selected for our program. Same thing with our English as a Second Language. We have a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced level. All three of those are full of CAP families that we've selected for this program. And we do that on purpose so that they can, remember the COGS, the social capital, we are really facilitating the building of social capital within those cohorts, right? They're leaning on each other, they're getting to know each other, they're carpooling, studying together, watching each other's kids. We've gotten some really great feedback over the years that they met their best friend in the cohort and they're still friends today. Or we have one soundbite that's really great. She said, one of our participants a while ago said, you know, if I try to skip class, my phone's blowing up with 10 other people calling me saying, if I can do it, you can do it, get to class. We also, along with the peer cohort, we meet with that cohort outside of class once a week, between 1 and 2 hours a week. And in Career Advance, the workforce development program, we use that to really embed those soft skills that aren't taught in the technical training classes. So communication styles, right? Stress management. We're talking about interview skills, resume prep. We're bringing employers in to do presentations. We're taking field trips to employers, right? That's what we use that extra time for. In ESL, we use it a little bit differently. It's more of an extension of the classroom. So they're learning the theory in the classroom. They're practicing it in the peer cohorts. They also take several field trips. They go to the grocery store, and one of our nutrition team members meets with them, and they do a tour of the grocery store in English so they can practice. And other really cool field trip examples. Our coaches, the academic and career coaches, really are the ones that lead those cohorts and empower the participants to make those social connections. Our coaches, so each cohort is assigned a coach, right? And so that coach gets to know the cohort members throughout the training, and they're really there as a mentor, an advisor, a shoulder to cry on. Sometimes they take on a parent role because maybe our participant didn't have that modeled for them. That's really been an imperative part of our program, and we get a lot of feedback from our participants that the coaches were really a big part of their success. In addition to our coaches, we have family support specialists, which I mentioned is part of our Head Start program, but we also have ones who are specifically aligned with our Career Advance and ESL programs. They're at the partner meetings. They're super accessible. They know our participants, and they are able to help with domestic violence, food insecurities, behavioral health issues, and we're just wrapping around the family, right, to break down those barriers. We also have a financial coach who does group presentations at those peer partner meetings, but then also can meet individually with participants to say, what's your current financial situation? What's it going to look like if you get a $15 an hour job? How's that going to change, right? We can set up individual plans for debt reduction, credit repair, savings, spending plans, whatever they need, whatever their individual financial needs are, we have the ability to sit down and work on those with them. We also have, in the Career Advance program specifically, we have what we call career advisors, okay? So they kind of pop in throughout the training. In the beginning, they're really focused on, let's talk about what it's like to be an employee, right? Let's get career ready. Let's do a resume in the beginning. And then they're working with the participants throughout to continuously update that resume. They're the ones coming in and doing interview skills. They're connecting our participants with jobs, okay? So they get to know the career advance participants. Let's say it's our medical assisting track. They know all 12 of those medical assistants. They know what kind of schedule they need. They know what kind of culture they're going to do best in. And then they work with our business services team to connect those jobs that are available that are the best fit for our participants. We also we are able to pay for tuition, books, fees, supplies. You know, for our healthcare trainings, they need scrubs, shoes, watches, stethoscopes, blood pressure cuffs. We take care of all of that to reduce the out-of-pocket expense for the participant. We also currently provide transportation assistance for both the ESL program and the Career Advance program in the form of a monthly gas card to help alleviate the hit on having to drive somewhere else for class. And then childcare assistance is huge, right? Any of us that pay childcare, we know it's expensive. While they do, a lot of our participants have children in our early childhood centers. Clinicals for healthcare training are before and after school, right? And so, and we also have classes over the summer, and maybe they have older or younger kids that aren't in our schools. So we're able to connect them with quality childcare in our community and cover that cost for them while they're in the program. And finally, we try really hard to schedule all of our classes during the daytime hours while their kids are in school. So mom goes to school while kid goes to school, right? And then they have the evenings together. Obviously, we have not done this alone, right? It takes a lot of players, which I mentioned at the beginning. Lincoln is seeming very collaborative. So you already have all the players. You have the programs already. It's really just figuring out how to connect them and who's kind of driving that initiative. Our key partners, just giving them a call out, we've got our Technology Center and our community college. They provide the technical training and education for our workforce development program. Our students go through the exact same training and certification process that anybody else would, right? So a career advanced person is going to come out with the same medical assisting certificate as somebody who just came in off the street. Union Public Schools Adult Learning Center. UPS actually provides ESL and high school equivalency classes and testing for the entire northeastern Oklahoma region. And they provide 3 classrooms and 3 instructors for us. And those are our CAP classrooms and our CAP instructors. And they have worked with us to contextualize that curriculum and work with our parents. And they have really bought into this 2-gen approach and started implementing some things in their own classes outside of ours, which has been really neat to watch. And then obviously our area workforce board and our local employers have been great partners. And Tulsa Community Work Advance, they are actually a service delivery partner with us on the Career Advance side. The career advisors I talked about actually are Work Advance employees. So we are very excited that we just got our first report out last year, and you all have a copy of it, of the brief. It's this right here. So our research team started Career Advance with us. They helped us form the program. They did the landscape scan, the labor market study. They've really been a part of the program team from the beginning. And they released their first findings, and we all celebrated together. So I wanted to share with you just a few slides from that and some interesting findings that we have. Disclaimer, this is 1 year's worth of data from between 2010 and 2015. So this is someone who was in our program between those years, their first year in the program, right? So they might have been 2010 to 2011, 2011, got it? Okay. The study was quasi-experimental, which means when we enrolled someone in Career Advance, based on data, our research team would find another family who had a kid in our schools that looked just like them, that they compared them to over time, okay? So that's what the little blue bar is. That's the comparison group. And this purple bar is the Career Advance group. And what that first group is showing you is that our Career Advance participants were much more likely to get a certificate in the healthcare sector than if they weren't in the program, which is good news, because if that was the other way around, we'd be in trouble. Healthcare employment. You'll see the blue bar is a little bit higher. So what that tells us is a lot of our early childhood parents are already working in the healthcare sector. This isn't surprising. CNA is really easy to get. There's a program that's 2 weeks long, right? And then they go work in home health or somewhere like that. So they're working in the healthcare sector. But if they're enrolled in Career Advance, they're actually more likely to work in the healthcare sector. And I would venture to guess that once we dive into that data, we would actually see that they have more stable jobs, better income, just a better employment situation. And they'll start looking into things like that as more data comes out year after year. Our research group also compared us to a program in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Regional Training Partnership. That program was healthcare focused. They had some supportive services, but it wasn't necessarily 2-gen. So it didn't have the early childhood component, the parent component, all of that. And our folks actually had a higher certification rate than the Wisconsin team. This slide's pretty cool. The first 3 bars, career commitment, self-efficacy, and optimism. This is self-reported. So they're saying after a year in the program, I feel better about myself. I'm more positive. I can see the future. And we saw that, right? We didn't need a graph to tell us that. We saw the shift in our participants. But the last 2 bars are interesting because it's perceived stress and psychological distress. They actually reported that those went down. Okay? I don't know about you guys, but if I have a little kid and I have to go back to school and I'm trying to figure all this out, my stress level is going to shoot out the window. But these guys are saying, actually, it went down. And so our researchers are going to dive into that a little bit more because that was surprising to all of us. Earlier this week, we had a great conversation about this same slide, and someone asked, well, maybe it's because they feel more in control. And that absolutely could be, because in those peer partner meetings, we talk about executive functioning skills, coping skills, right? So if you've increased your capacity to cope, you're not going to feel as stressed, even if your stress level's higher. So that may be one hypothesis behind that. This is also neat because even though it's a 2-gen study, we did not anticipate any child outcomes in the first year. We weren't even going to look at them. So we thought, let mom get that job, get that extra income coming in, then we'll start seeing changes in the child outcomes. So we were pleasantly surprised when we found out, actually, children of Career Advance participants had a higher daily attendance rate than their peers. So mom's going to school, she's bringing her kid to school, right? So they had higher daily attendance, and they actually had lower chronic absenteeism. Okay? Chronic absenteeism for this study is defined as missing 10% or more of the school days. So our kids were, they were at school more, and we know the more you're at school, the better chances of positive academic outcomes. And then as promised, I said I would give you all some resources about who else in the nation is working on 2-gen. Ascend, you saw their 2 slides. They really are a driver in the country of the 2-gen work. They have created a 2-gen toolkit, which if you're interested, this stuff piques your interest, go check out their website and look at that toolkit. Really great things in there. They've also recently developed what they call an outcomes bank. So they're taking the outcomes from studies like those slides I just showed you and others across the country doing this work, and they're compiling it all into this outcomes bank. So we finally have some data to work off of. The Community Foundation of Sarasota County is new-ish. They're new to our radar, but wanted to share them with you because they're really taking that community approach, that grassroots approach. They, as a community foundation, are functioning as the convener, right? They're bringing together the business community, the schools, the nonprofits, and really driving this 2-gen effort. And then finally, the federal government, the Office of Family Assistance, that is under ACF, they fund us through the Health Professions Opportunity Grant, so that's how we run Career Advance because of their generous grant. They also fund TANF, and they did a couple years ago a really great technical assistance academy, they called it, with several states and then Ramsey County in Minnesota. And through this, they worked with these state TANF agencies to really transform the way they are working with TANF clients. Temporary assistance for needy families, cash assistance, right? Traditionally a very bureaucratic public assistance program with case managers. They have changed that role significantly, and those case managers are now coaches. They are using a strengths-based approach. They are using family-centered coaching, thinking of this adult as a component of a larger family, aligning access to multiple public benefits, really streamlining the experience for those families. And that is all I have for you today. I'm going to kick it back to Kathy to introduce Bryan.
Bryan Seck is the employment skills developer for Prosper Lincoln, and many of you in the room already know him. Previously, he was the homeless outreach specialist for the Lincoln Public Schools, where he helped on average 500 homeless students each year. Bryan holds a master's degree in public administration from the Wagner School at New York University. He is married, has 2 dogs, and according to the information given to me from Marcia, he tries to grow vegetables. Bryan.
Thank you. Well, first, thanks for coming. This is an amazing turnout for a conversation about workforce development. What we're really going to talk about, just briefly, because I really would like this to morph into more of a conversation with questions, because how often do you get to grill Kathy Campbell? You know, that's a pretty good honor, is to really talk about how could we do this here. So Tulsa has really figured out how to do this. We heard about this program, reached out to Janae. I talked her ear off on the phone for about 2 hours, took about 5 pages of notes, reached out to Marcia and got to bring her here. Since she's been here, she's talked to our philanthropic community, she's talked to our case manager community, she's talked to our business community, she's talked to our Prosper Lincoln folks. If there's people in Lincoln who care about workforce development who she hasn't talked to, that's their fault, because we got everybody really in front of Janae. So when you're thinking about this takes a lot of work to put together this level of collaboration, this level of funding. So you think about how can we do that? So for the last 2 years with Prosper Lincoln, really what I'd like to really hang our hat on is the creation of what's called Employ LNK. Employ LNK brings together all the different agencies that are focused on workforce development to give businesses a single point of contact. Veterans Affairs has a person whose job it is not to work with veterans, but to go out in the community and recruit businesses to hire veterans. Vocational Rehabilitation has a full-time person whose job it is go out in the community and find businesses to hire people with disabilities. When you have businesses that are trying to recruit in a 2.1% unemployment environment, it makes it harder to respond to multiple agencies. So with Employ LNK, we've put this group together. Everyone who works on workforce development is on our team. We meet once a month, and we bring businesses to come talk to us about their opportunities. Businesses are stoked because they get to talk to every agency all at once. The case managers are equally happy because they get to talk to a premier employer in our community and go back and share it with their teams and their clients. In addition, there's an outside concentric circle of about 500 case managers who receive monthly emails from our group about all the new jobs that are available. If you imagine you put yourself in the head of a DHHS caseworker, you may have 200 people on your caseload, and your job is to get them jobs. It's very easy to say, just go get a job, any job. But if you're a case manager at DHHS, you don't want to do that. That's not what you signed up for. You want to help people achieve stability. So we're providing the information to help families achieve stability through this work. This connects to the Career Advance program as we think about the needs in the health community. We have representatives from Tabitha and Bryan here, SCC's nursing program, Madonna, CHI, we're at different events. So we're really thinking about everybody has needs, so how can we do that? Also, everybody in Lincoln is already working. Nebraska has the 3rd highest rate in the entire country. Vermont is 1, South Dakota is 2, we're 3, of people who have more than one job. However, poverty increased by 58% between 2006 and 2016 in our community, in this town. The rise of underemployment, people working multiple low-wage jobs, has led to this poverty. So when I think about how do we address that, the answer is you create stability through careers that do this. If you start at a fast food job, it looks like this. If you start as a CNA and you move up into a CMA, into an LPN, into an RN, now you're talking about stability in an environment that has a supportive workplace, in a place that has tuition reimbursement and healthcare and EAPs and the things that create stability. So when we heard about this program, we wanted to learn more. So this program at Community Action, in many ways, it's an in-reach model. So they're working with the parents of the kids who are in early childhood programs at Community Action to work with those parents. So you think about who does early childhood here. Community Action does, Educare does, Lincoln Public Schools does. All of those organizations have heard about this program. So when we think about building it out, possibly doing this here, I think about all the people in this room. I see the Hub here, I see CASA here, I see Matt Talbot here, I see the state here, I see Center for People in Need here, and many others. It's hard to pick out individual faces in a crowd. Those are the people that I see. I see the Getting Ahead program with the food bank here. We have in this room the ability to do something very similar. We have healthcare education facilities through the Bryan College of Health Sciences, through SCC. We can do this here, and I believe even in this room, we could put together the program to make that happen. So if you're thinking about, this wonderful program in Tulsa, how can we do that here? We can absolutely do it here. The question is does our community have the will to do it? And I believe we do. So I'd be happy to take any questions. I know these guys would too. Many of you who know me know I could talk for much longer, but I'm going to shut up because I'm interested in hearing what everyone thinks. So thank you very much for coming today.
Marsha's all ready to go with the questions, but I want to make one comment. And that is, Elise, to the end, is always doing the research for me and found that in 2016, 14% of Lancaster County families have kids under the age of 18. It is certainly in poverty, thank you. It has certainly been one of the priorities of the Community Health Endowment to deal with early childhood and good quality early childhood development. And one of our preferences in funding is how does this impact poverty in our community? That is where two conversions have come together for the Community Health Endowment, and we thank you so much for your attention, and we'll go right to questions.
This is for Janae. You listed those partners, those key partners you had. Were some of those partners for-profit partners?
Those are all nonprofits, yeah. We currently don't have any for-profit partners. I got asked that question earlier today too, how we're engaging our employers in this work. And at this moment, we're not doing as good of a job with that as we could, but as we look towards life after our federal funding, which is coming up quickly, 2020, we're going to have to start talking to our employers about that. Like, hey guys, if you want to keep getting these high quality employees, we're going to need some help with that. So is that they fund some tuition, they subsidize some work study or work on the job training, various ways. We're going to have to think smarter about how to engage that community better.
And then one other quick question. Is the Union Public Schools, is that the Tulsa School District?
So in Tulsa, we're a little bit different. We have multiple school districts within our city limits. Union is a suburban school district that actually straddles Tulsa proper and the suburb of Broken Arrow. So yeah, we actually, Cap Tulsa works with 3 different school districts.
Janae, I'm curious, for your folks that are enrolled in the Career Advance program, are they primarily women, or what's the gender breakdown?
Yeah, we would love to have more guys in our program. I think, don't quote me on this, but I believe in the 9 years we've been running this program, we've only had maybe 3 men. It is the healthcare sector that's primarily female. We have done quite a few different recruiting efforts to get dads involved. And then with our ESL program, similarly, a lot of our immigrant population, the dads are working during the day, and since our classes are during the day, we're just not hitting that target demographic. So right now it is primarily women.
How did you decide to choose the healthcare sector to focus on?
Great question. So back in 2009, when we were looking to pilot the program, our researchers did a labor market study in Tulsa to see what are the growing sectors in Tulsa, which sectors have entry-level positions that we can quickly train and certify somebody in and get them on the job, and then, like Bryan said, work with the employer to move them up. And healthcare rose to the top. Healthcare is a demand sector in most communities across the country, but that's how we selected that one. We stayed in the healthcare sector because the next year, in 2010, we received the Health Professions Opportunity Grant, which came out of the Affordable Care Act and is focused specifically in healthcare.
Yeah, and here in Lincoln, just getting kicked off is the Next Generation Sector Partnership Model. This is a partnership with Department of Economic Development and Department of Labor, and we also use labor market information to select the healthcare industry to focus on. And really what that means is we'll be gathering all healthcare employers Avengers style, except we won't lose. There's no Thanos here, no Infinity Gauntlet. We'll be gathering all of the employers to have a discussion about their needs in the community. That'll be the center of the room. Around the periphery of the room will be people like me who assist employers to help find the people that they need, nonprofit services, educators. So we're really going to figure out from the employer community in Lancaster County and the surrounding counties what's needed. Based on that conversation, we will create a work plan to really understand and conquer what's needed from our employers. I firmly believe that we have the initiative, we have the momentum to collaborate in our community to achieve the needs of our community, to help our families achieve stability. What I find 99% of the time is when you work with families, it's an awareness problem. It's not an intelligence problem. I wouldn't even argue it's a poverty problem. It's an awareness problem. Families simply don't know about the pathways that are available. Maybe they don't know Jordan at the Hub is available to work for them after they drop out from high school. If you don't know that, you don't know that. Our My LNK app, shameless plug for My LNK app, available on your Android and Apple app stores, has every nonprofit service known to man in our community. Since that app has been released 3 months ago, we've had 4,000 downloads, 1,500 monthly users, 50 daily users. Those are families accessing services who many times didn't know they existed before. That app belongs to Leadership Lincoln. Laura Uradill's right there if you have any questions about the app. It's been an incredible success, and it didn't recreate the wheel. It only provided information about resources that already exist.
Hi there. So I know a little bit about workforce development programs that have had some success nationally, specifically Project Quest in San Antonio. And I think it's really interesting the way that you're also partnering early childhood education. But I think one of the areas that we kept hearing consistently with that program was the need for wraparound services and really identifying those barriers to get people into quality workforce development programs. So you alluded a little bit to some of the incentives to get people and retain people in the program. Can you talk a little bit more about what happened and how they were offsetting income? I saw that it said they were removing themselves from full-time employment to part-time to participate. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of those wraparound services
Absolutely.
And how you were working with those folks?
And actually Project Quest, a quick shout out to our researcher, Dr. Chris King at the Ray Marshall Center at UT Austin. He was also part of Project Quest. And so he was a big part of creating Career Advance and helping us start it from the beginning. So yeah, a lot of similarities to Project Quest and Capital Ideas, also in Texas. So in the beginning, the first 5 years that we ran the program, we actually had a financial incentive component in it. So based on that Greg Duncan work, right, $1,000 extra a year, positive impacts on the kids. At that time, our tracks were much longer. We were focused on associate degree tracks. So we had the families with us for a significant amount of time. So we had attendance incentives built into where they could earn up to $200 a month cash. It was a cash reimbursement to them. There were milestone incentives, so if they completed a track, they passed their certification test, they got employed. There were other monetary incentives built into that to where they could earn actually up to $3,000 a year if they hit all of those milestones. Okay, again, remembering they're with us multiple years. When we shifted to this, so we're in our second round of HPOG funding. The first round was 2010 to 2015. The second round is 2015 to 2020. In this second round, we really shifted to shorter, more technical tracks because we were finding that our participants were in the program so long and they weren't able to work. And that incentive, while it was great, it wasn't a lot. And we saw some significant dropouts, right? And so we thought, well, how do we get them connected to the workforce faster? So we switched to phlebotomy, they're done in a couple months, right? Medical assisting, 8 months, and they've got a great job. We still have our stackable nursing track, though, the CNAs to the CMAs to all those MN and all of that up to LPN. We don't go all the way to RN anymore because now we get them connected to employers who have tuition assistance programs, and they get them to the RN and the BSN and all of that. So yeah, the financial incentive was big, but we actually did away with that in this second round. However, we did not do away with the transportation assistance. So all of our participants get $75 a month on a gas card that they can use at Quick Trip, which in Tulsa, headquarters of Quick Trip, there's one on every corner. So they can use that for gas. The child care incentive is huge, right? We call it assistance. It's not an incentive. They don't have to earn it. It's just part of the program. Same thing with the transportation assistance. That's the difference with this round is they don't have to earn it. It's just a support of the program. We're breaking down barriers by that. So how do we offset lost income? These shorter term tracks, a lot of them aren't 5 days a week. So they are able to work part-time. We do have that conversation on the front end though. We do a very rigorous academic assessment and then an interview to make sure this is really the right time and the right fit for the participant before they get into the program. And during that interview, we're talking about what does your family support system look like? What's your financial support system look like, right? Can you afford to do the schedule of the track you want to do? And if not, maybe there's another track that they're interested in as well that fits their schedule better. And so we make that decision with them.
I was curious what mechanisms you might have in place to take feedback from participants.
Yeah. Great. We are huge fans and huge utilizers of the human-centered design approach. You familiar with that? Okay, great. I am not the person to talk about it, but I will tell you what we've done with it. So you can ask my buddy Google. So in the beginning, you know, I said our researchers started with us, right? And so they still to this day are very engaged, but they would come once a semester and do in-person focus groups with our participants. And then they would give us that feedback and we would make programmatic changes on the fly based on that feedback. And now we've embedded these customer satisfaction surveys. So every track, we get a survey of feedback from our participants, and we're continuously improving the program so that we're ensuring we're meeting the needs of our participants. One really cool thing that we just did, you know, I talked about the peer partner meetings, right? Traditionally, those were 2 hours once a week. We picked the topics, and it was mandatory attendance. That's still true in our ESL program, but in Career Advance, in our healthcare sector programs, we did a human-centered design approach investigation. We interviewed, I don't remember how many parents, both former participants and current participants, about, are you getting anything out of these partner meetings? Like, what could make them better? And we really got their input on it. And so now we've shifted to a workshop model with an element of choice. So we have a menu of workshops that they can attend. They get to choose which ones make sense to them. And our attendance rates have been excellent. We've also, to keep that cohort cohesiveness, we're switching to these shorter, what we call peer huddles. So we're really, instead of doing like a seminar kind of activity approach, we're really just doing a check-in. Like, hey guys, how's it going? Are you still utilizing your cohort? What needs do you have? How's class going? Like, what are you guys working on right now? So it's more of an informal check-in versus that big 2-hour-long meeting. But that was all based on participant feedback.
Yeah, so if I was you and I was sitting in the audience, I would think, all I read about is how we have a 2% unemployment rate. Do we have enough people to fill the needs of the healthcare industry? And I will answer you, the question is yes. The American Job Center, which is run by ResCare, our workforce development agency, sees 2,000 people every month walk through their doors applying for jobs. 2,000. Every single year, Lincoln Public Schools graduates about 4,000 students. 2/3 of those go to college, either a community college or a 4-year college. A third don't. So when we think about, is there a population of people that we can go and recruit and upskill and train, I will tell you the answer is yes. The end of poverty is certification. The end of poverty is achieving stability through a certified skill.
I'd like you to join me in thanking our panel, Janae and our panel.
you.